Hello and welcome to Koicast, a podcast where we talk about pop culture, we talk about comic books, we talk about people, and we love most of them. This week, I want to dive into some specific mediums. I want to dive into some specific ideas. I want to dive into the theater itself. But first, I want to see how the ever-illustrious producer, Jake Lloyd Bake, is feeling and doing.
Hi, Koi. I'm all right. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
That's what it sounds like. That sounds fine.
I'm in a lot of pain.
Okay. From
oldness, I think, and from
you have a
not
lovely
doing,
cardigan on.
From not doing. Yeah, listen. This is like one of the oldest sweaters I have. It's so cozy. I need a more variety of colors of cardigans. I've noticed. Like I keep telling Alexander, like I don't have any blues.
Okay.
I have like a green, and I have like this maroon, and then I have like a bunch of like amorphous colors that are kind of in like the greenish sphere, the earthy sphere, but I have no
I just wanted to acknowledge while you're talking about like the old person ache, you look like a young person in an old person outfit.
That's
like
fair.
You don't look
That's
old.
fair.
I'm just acknowledging the outfit is
that.
like,
well,
you got a quality a pappy vibe.
I feel old. The weather's been nice here in New York. I mean, it's been rainy, but it's like one of those things where it rains half the day and it's nice the other half. I've been playing a little basketball, just trying to like be active in ways, and my legs and my shins are very upset about that. my neck and shoulders, like behind my shoulder blades, I'm in constant pain. The other night, I was like, oh, I want to try to use like one of my family members here has like one of those like those massagers that like rotate rotate in like two circles, right? And so I was like, oh, that's perfect. I'm going to put those right in between my shoulder blades. And I kind of like fell asleep on it for a little while. And so I woke up and it didn't really fix the muscle problem, but now also I'm bruised. I have like black and blue. Like I literally bruised myself. Listen, all in all.
This is the old white person version of that song, like my neck, my back. But it's about getting old and in pain.
I don't know what is the problem. The only thing I could assume is that I just need to go and move my body more, and that eventually the pain will stop. And
that's how it works.
That's the only thing that I could assume is the issue.
Well, on my end, I know the audience is probably vaguely aware, and I won't get too much into it, but I have been sick for 6 weeks, so I totally identify, man. It's unpleasant.
Patient zero over there.
Dude, when your infection from your sinuses gets too infected that it goes to your eyeballs, it is a hell of a, like, I feel like the monkeys in Congo, or like, Congo? I just feel, wait, what, not Congo. What's that movie? Outbreak. Congo's another ape movie. Guys,
you know what? You do kind of remind me of the monkeys in Congo.
I feel like them, those albino apes. But I actually pulled up an article for this week's episode of Koicast because I want to talk about the shift we're going through, and I think I'm going to make some videos about it as well, but I really thought a dialogue would be a good way to kind of have this conversation instead of just like man yells at cloud. And Jake and I are very interestingly opposed in our experience, but in the same place of admiration of the movie theater. And the article I brought up, I think, ties directly in as well, which is on the home side. We are not only having issues at the theater where Jake has the bad experiences, I have mostly good experiences, but with the Fall Guy dropping on streaming, literally when you hear this, as this airs,
that happens
today, it will be on streaming. Like 2 weeks out from release is insane. I don't know how they expect anyone to go to the theater, but also
where's
the article
going?
I have here, I just a VOD, like pay for it.
Oh, okay, I got you. It's not going to one of the streamers' services, but it's available.
No, it's not free streaming, but I think that's within.
Because it's interesting. I know we're talking about theater stuff, but like that is sort of a new change in the market where it used to be like there's theater and then there's home release, but now
there's
it's like
middle.
Now it's like there's theater and then there's home release and then there's streaming. Because
the home release is more akin to like a Blu-ray.
Because
like buying a DVD.
There is definitely a level of movie that I generally probably would not go out of my way to see, but as listeners of the Patron Only Pod have to look forward to, I celebrated Netflix Madam Web Day, as did many people.
It is the biggest Netflix day in some time.
So there is a new level to this rollout. So I just want to be clarified, when you say streamers, you actually mean video on demand.
Yeah, there is
digital.
A 3-tier process.
Yeah.
It just no longer has physical media as a main tier. I would say the physical media has been taken over by this VOD, and streaming is like, oh, we expect everything for free right now.
Right.
That said, the article I pulled up is from The Atlantic, and it says the dream of streaming is dead. Bundles are back. It is ominous. It is quite the it is pretty clear, cut and dry. So basically it's saying last week Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery announced that starting this summer they will offer a streaming bundle of Disney Plus, Hulu, and Max. Then on Tuesday, Comcast said next month it will introduce a streaming bundle of Peacock, Apple, and Netflix. This bundle, called the Stream Saver, will be available only to Comcast broadband, mobile, and TV customers. So we are back to cable, but without actors getting residuals.
Because these are cable companies that are offering
Comcast
these.
and Warner Brothers, effectively.
And it seems like sort of what they're doing is it's sort of like how it's like Movie Pass, where it's not. This isn't these companies working together. It's this provider saying like, we'll pay for your services.
And you pay a fee to us that is a slight discount. But at the end of the day, a lot of people online, like Twitter, just going like, oh, cable's back. It's so much worse because cable had commercials and paid people. This is all of the negatives of streaming without the positives. And it'll cause a power shift that's going to make a bigger like oligarchy of power. And things will be coming to streaming faster because of things like what happened to the Fall Guy.
Right.
So not only is the theater industry dying, actors getting paid is dying, all while AI is rising. Like I've never, like, you've been on the East Coast for a bit, and I don't think personally I have felt LA feel this desperate or sad or broken in my 14 going on 15 years here.
In what way?
No one feels like there's hope. Usually there's
for creative work or for theater.
For creative work, for the future of what we have. Like, it's not just about the individual right now. There feels to be like an existential dread. I don't feel like the usual dread of like, I haven't worked in 6 months or a year, which is common, unfortunately, in this industry.
Sure.
It feels more like I haven't worked in 2 years and I don't know if my job will be there when it comes back.
Right.
So I frankly worry about the morale of seeing AI create quote unquote content while art gets downsized, while giant platforms make their billions, while people get raises. Like, Netflix is turning in profits year over year, and it's not because of the quality. So I see the Suits going, well, if we don't need quality, and then theaters are hemorrhaging money, except for when they're re-releasing movies, because the new movies, I wanted to talk about how do you advertise a movie nowadays? Like, how do you get someone to decide it's worth that thing when in 2 months it'll be at home, potentially for free once you bootleg it?
Yeah, that third stage that we're talking about. Or like me, like I'm not paying to go see Madam Web in the theater. Right. But I'm going to watch the shit out of it the second it comes free.
And again, Patron Only Pod, we'll be diving right into that masterpiece.
I'm already paying for. But, I mean, you asked me an honest question, and I'm trying to give an honest answer, even though I don't know that so I'm like trying to advocate. Okay. So
I just threw a lot at you. I wanted your take.
So, like, does that window need to increase drastically? And if so, does the advertising become even less effective long term? Meaning, is the idea this isn't going to be coming to video on demand for a very long time. So if you really want to see this before next year, this is your window. And then making sure that stuff isn't going to the Netflix, the Max, the subscription service-based things for even longer? Is it literally like delayed, but then does that really matter? Or is there always just this influx of new because people ultimately, we have destroyed the way that people watch movies?
I think it's the latter. I think that if a movie gets advertised now, people aren't going to remember it in December, much less next year. I think the problem is...
but that's the question. That's what I'm getting at. Does it even matter? Because it doesn't matter where the stuff is advertised, because it gets re-advertised to us on the screen that we open on a daily basis. So does
familiarity is how we click it.
I don't think so. I think you're speaking generally because of you and me and our group. I
can't separate.
Can I tell you?
Yeah.
I've spent some time now with fucking Suburbia, okay?
Yeah.
And I've witnessed family, like, literally, like, my brother-in-law will watch whatever pops up in the thumbnail on Netflix. It has nothing to do with familiarity. It is simply like, turns on Netflix. Oh, what's this? Okay, I guess I'll watch this now. The amount of things that this family watches that I go like, why are you watching this? I don't know. It's new. Just popped like, and it's not like these people don't have circles of, oh, did you watch that thing? Blah blah blah. Like that doesn't happen in that, they're like social circles. It is mostly, at least from my point of view, just like what's being fed to you. It's it's idiocracy. It's like, this is what you get. This is what you take. So there is something to you, like you saying, oh, people aren't going to remember something in a year from now. Maybe it doesn't matter.
You're saying that doesn't matter if it's just
because
new.
Think about how many, and you know what? We actually do probably do this a little bit. How many times has a movie hit Netflix or Max or Apple or any of the places where we watch stuff that we have subscribed to the service for? I'm trying to get rid of saying watch stuff for free because it's not free. You are still paying for the service.
No, it's a prepaid.
But yeah, the stuff that we have subscribed to, how many times have you turned something on and you're like, oh shit, I forgot about this, and then watched it? Does it matter that you forgot about it? Does it matter that you forgot about it?
I'd say that's only 10% of the time. I'd say 90% is me going through Letterboxd, looking at what's available from my list, and then but that's me. I'm you and I are probably 1% of the actual demo.
Sure.
So that's why I bring up, like, I don't think I can quantify the solution because I'm not the problem. And I'm not saying like I'm the answer, but I am saying I'm not the problem to the scale of not even understanding the problem.
Right.
Even when I go to a premiere or get invited to a screening, I AMC A-list a movie ticket to that movie to support it.
Sure.
I don't know a single other person in press that does that. I literally like. So I think I'm even in a smaller
We get
category.
it. You're very special and good. Jesus Christ.
No. What I'm saying is the exhibition industry means more to me than me.
Yes. No, I get it. Yeah,
so my woe is me selflessness is even beyond my normal. No, but I think that the beauty of the exhibition industry isn't regarded as special anymore. That's what I'm speaking to, is like you can get a 75-inch TV for $30 on Black Friday.
Right.
Like you can get, so I think the experience is therefore about the community aspect. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because your community aspect is never something worth paying for. And my community aspect is generally positive.
I will say, like, it's multi-tiered here where, like, I have not enjoyed the theater going experience for some time because of people. / I've become, irritable in my older age, and I'm not normal like other people, and I accept that. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is for every point there's its own counterpoint, right?
Sure, absolutely.
I am thrifty with my money as far as like, ticket prices aren't cheap for certain things.
And if you can't make that matinee, like,
right. And then on top of that, still subscribe to every single service there is.
Yeah,
I literally have a subscription. I literally have a subscription to everything, but I justify it where it's like, oh, but that's like I'm paying for 1,000 movies for that $12.99.
And that's why I think it's not sustainable, because that is what it is.
But as Alexander and I have mentioned a ton lately, like we should just cancel this and just subscribe when we want to watch something, because how often are we using those things? Are we using each one of them at least even once a month? The answer is probably no.
Right. And that's how they can rationalize it, but the studios can't. That's why they don't pay residuals.
Yeah.
Like, how does the industry stay functioning?
I wish that I could be more positive about this, but I do think that I think technology has ruined the theater going experience in a way that, in my opinion, is irreversible. In the same way that technology has fucking killed stand-up in a lot of ways.
Well, you look at music, right? Music had to become like
great.
I think touring has become the answer for now, right? Like a tour and merch is kind of old school. It's kind of like we went back to the punk grassroots campaign of what it was before. Like when things were on vinyl and when CDs were too expensive, it was a tour, right? You could buy one CD. So now that Spotify's out, I think we've regressed to the old ways. So is the answer the old ways of theater, where your domestic window is like Blu-rays are a year later, streaming is a year later, don't touch this, let it be only here.
Right.
But I worry that much like with Spotify, I listen to like 100 artists on Spotify. I don't have 100 CDs in my car.
Right.
Do I not listen to those 50 that I wouldn't have CDs of because of the shift? And do middle and low budget films that I see because I have AMC list go away if that's the solution, is only having blockbusters in there for a year?
Right. It's tough to equate entirely to the music thing because you don't watch 1/12 of a movie.
Right.
And there are plenty there are plenty of artists who I'm like, yeah, I'm going to add this to my fucking whatever playlist and listen to this one song. But I'm like, yeah, I tried the rest of the album. It sucked. It wasn't for me.
But thanks. I love the single.
But I do understand your point. And I don't know. I think to some degree, it's just a matter of like, we have become so entitled when it comes to the arts that it's just normal everyday people who are already fucking hurt. Do you want to know it? I just figured it out because I was just going to say who are hurting enough. Do you want to know how we fucking fix the theater industry? Is we fucking fix the fucking economy.
And yeah.
We give people fucking money. Because at the end of the day, it really does come like, fuck it, I busted my ass working. I could barely pay fucking rent because it's 6 times what it was fucking 15 years ago. Everything is so much more expensive, and minimum wage hasn't increased perpetually.
No, not at the same level.
What's the word? Yeah, looking for respectively. You know what I mean? Like, that I'm not gonna pay $20 to go watch The Thing when I can pay $15 to watch
everything,
6 other things, and then that one in a couple months. It doesn't make sense. It's bad. It's bad for people. It's irresponsible. Especially,
I do worry.
Especially for like, the
families.
The generation. Yeah, well, families for one, but I was gonna say the difference in families is that like kids sell shit. Do you know what I mean? Parents ultimately will spend money on their children before they spend it for themselves. What I was going to say is it really hurts for the people who used to be spending the money on the 18 to 35 demo.
Yeah.
It used to be those late teenagers, those 20-somethings, those 30-something, the young couples without kids who used to be the bread and butter of the industry for date nights and for like, yeah, this is our social life. Whereas now those people can't afford to live at all.
Right.
So, the yous of the world. And
right.
I say me because I've officially aged out of the demographic, or I didn't say me because I aged, but the us's, you know what I mean? Like, that's the reality. The reality, I think, is nobody's got fucking money.
I would also say there's a place of arrested development in the economy and in the workforce where 40 is absolutely 30 now.
Oh, yeah. And that,
do you know what I mean, though? Like, as far as the macro, if you zoom out,
100%.
I don't think those demos are accurate anymore, which I also think is a factor.
Also, the difference is that the 18 to 35 used to cover all the same ground. But because that was because we started using that in the fucking 80s, I think, like 80s and 90s, because of
I don't understand a thing about 18-year-olds.
Because mainstream media was a thing. It doesn't really exist anymore. I don't believe there's a mainstream media anymore. And so the reality is that, yeah, a 35-year-old has an entirely different view on what pop culture is than a 20-year-old in 2024, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah, I don't think they see eye to eye on much, but I do think that they're targeted the same, and that's not good business.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, the cable bundle thing freaks me out because a lot of people are just saying the doom and gloom cable's back, but I think it's way worse than that. The movie theater thing with Fall Guy, I'm not putting all my eggs in the Fall Guy basket, but I do think it is a very good 4-quadrant film.
I mean, and you've got it has 2 huge stars, one of which is like at this point as a level of a talent as you can get in Ryan Gosling.
Agreed.
Like, I mean, like literally the dude. It was in like the biggest movie of last year, had a giant, Oscar performance.
Stayed public as much as he needed to be at the right level.
I mean, like this, to the point Ryan Gosling became like it's so ingrained in culture that it's like he's referenced in other media now. He's referenced.
He did SNL right before, and it actually was a big episode.
Honestly.
He did a press tour and the Fall Guy press was solid. Like they actually invested.
Right.
There was stunt performances, the Beavis and Butthead thing.
Yeah,
things actually worked.
It was on brand and effective to an extent. But you know what? I still didn't go see it, and I'm the demo. I wanted to,
and that's what I'm saying. Is like
I wanted to. Would have loved to have
get
seen
people, but it's just expensive, and the theater doesn't call you the same.
It's really expensive, and I don't expect to have an incredible time there. I think it also does. I don't know. I think it all comes down to money, really, because the more I think about it, the more it's like, and everybody who said money can't buy happiness has never been so fucking poor that you never feel joy.
That it makes all their decisions for them.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, literally, like, and the reality is I think that if you felt like you had money that was expendable, then a more common theater experience. And I know there's plenty of people out there, there's listeners out there who are like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, I go to the movie 3 times a fucking week. And I'm like, that's great. And I know that there are a lot of people like that. My buddy Matt is that way, where he's constantly going to the theater by himself. And it's just like, I think it's a little bit different, depending on your specific job. He can afford to do that because he doesn't have a day job 9 to 5 Monday through Friday.
Right.
And he goes by himself. He doesn't have, he's in a specific relationship where she doesn't care to go. But, I don't want to go see a movie that Alexandra wants to see by myself and then go home and her be like, what the fuck? I want to see that movie. And, so that doubles the price of everything because you want to share the experience if you're in a couple.
Yep. And that actually brings me to a point I had about the preview, the bring back the retro movie thing. Like, I think, honestly, I've been seeing the Amazing Spider-Man movies in theaters again, the Andrew Garfield ones. I went I saw 2 Mondays ago.
Yeah, I saw you wrote about that.
Dude, the second Amazing Spider-Man had always been like a C- for me. Like, not good, but not awful. Just like, it was always Andrew Garfield was great. Everything else wasn't.
Right.
Seeing it in the theater again with the benefit of superhero culture, with the audience that actually wanted to see it, with the specificity of everything, the theater experience alone elevated that to like a B-. It's still not a good movie, and I still wouldn't say it's better than a lot of things, but seeing it in the theater, the web swinging in that movie, I think, is absolutely the best. The action's the best. Garfield's the best. All those things are true, but on the 11 scale of a movie theater, it really showed me how much I love that film, and my girlfriend hadn't seen either of them.
Right.
So it was really unique to have it feel old and new at once,
right,
to use that nostalgia. So I think, honestly, one of the answers is these 10, 5, 20-year reunions, and do it consistently. Don't do movies within the last 5 years, because then it won't be special.
Right.
But do stuff 5 years and older and try to hit those 5-year anniversaries so it feels impactful. Like, I had never seen The Abyss ever. I'd never seen James Cameron's The Abyss.
Really?
That's going to be this week's holy crap, this is as good as they said on Patreon.
I wish I would have rewatched that with you. So I have a good friend who worked on that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And I had I known that you did that, I probably would have tried to get them involved in some way. And
I got the 4K and it just got sent to me. So I was like, well, this is a James Cameron movie.
That's awesome.
But so the 35th anniversary, they released in theaters.
Right.
I am so at my core upset that I missed that.
Right.
Having never seen it, I had no association. But now I know the first thing I'm going to do when I find out there's a 40th anniversary screening. And that's why you make it like must-see TV.
Right.
Don't release it next year.
No.
Wait until 40.
100%.
And I think you do that with these superhero films, because my dream, like what I want to do, and now it seems even more removed than ever, I want to open a movie theater and play these classic movies with Q&As with the actors and the directors that are no longer going to be working that big.
Right.
Like the Russo brothers aren't in the news that often. And frankly, I think in 10 years they'll be in the news less, because why would they want to be at this level of strife? But in 10 years, I would pay such good money to host a screening with the Russo brothers playing Infinity War for its 15-year anniversary.
Right, sure.
Like stuff like that, I think is going to be our generation's special. But if they do it too much, because I'm afraid the knee-jerk reaction from the Spider-Man, all of a sudden every week there'll be something that was just out, or they'll burn out like, oh, how excited am I to see Lost Boys again?
Yeah, but do you really think that is a big enough move of the needle? Because doesn't that seem to be really more niche for like the pop culture nerds. Like,
I think the theater's become niche.
But 100%, I suppose. But that's the problem. So to take,
I don't think we go back to theater being what it was in the 90s.
No,
unfortunately,
it'll never. Like I said,
I'm just trying to keep it open.
Technology's ruined that 100%. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think of what to do to pay the usher, the projectionist, and the concessionist at a theater. Like, right. I'm thinking the potatoes that are to the scale of keeping the lights on, and then if a big movie comes out, then you hire a weekend staff. Like, at this point, I'm afraid of them going away, so I'm trying to think of like triage. I'm trying to keep the pressure on the wound here.
I mean, it's literally like theaters are like bookstores now, where
you're totally right.
Where
dude.
Like the thing that keeps them alive is the people who are like, I'm a diehard theater guy. Like, and for me, I'm like, this is my buddy. I'm holding up a book for the listeners. This is my buddy Mike's book. And I searched all over America trying to find this in a goddamn bookstore.
And you bought it in a bookstore?
No. And eventually somebody then gifted it to me. And I went, incredible, where'd you find it? And they went, Amazon. And I went, God fucking damn it. But like, it's just one of those things where the convenience of being like on my phone, beep, boop, boop, great, book will come to me for, for $8 versus getting in the car, going down to the bookstore, holding it, spending $15 on it. Right?
Yeah.
I love bookstores. I want more bookstores to exist in the world. So when Alexandra and I see a small independent bookstore, we always go buy. It doesn't matter if it's $6, $5, that we always go buy something. But we're like, that's kind of a rule we have where it's like, spend $4 to fucking buy a goddamn bookmark. It does not matter. It's just like, because we're so desperate for bookstores to like stay around and be safe havens. I think the difference is that I go to a bookstore, my experience shopping there isn't predicated on the other people around me.
And that experience is the thing to have a movie theater experience for. Right. I think there's also, if we're talking about these classic run movies, I haven't had any of the same insanity of people like on their phones and stuff. I've had the occasional, like, someone will record a big moment, but they generally put their phone away right after. I think that's awful and asinine, but I think it's better than texting the whole time.
Oh, 100%.
So I think maybe the throwback movies will bring the throwback crowds, and then the new movies are the ones you need to have an usher at the bottom of the theater. We need more jobs.
Yeah, but the problem is that you and I say we need more ushers, but the general public does not.
Doesn't listen to me.
Because, no, they don't want, because it's just a fucking movie.
Costs will go up.
It's just a movie.
Right.
Who cares? What do you care that I'm on my phone? Shut up. It's just a fucking movie. I pay just as much as you did to sit here.
Yeah. And that's why we need those messages at the top. Like these are the rules.
I agree.
And then that guy has some power.
I agree, but I just don't think they matter. And in fact, do you want to know the real cynic in me? Do you want to know really how you fucking save movie theaters? Is you turned them into a fucking free-for-all chaos monster with no fucking rules, and then people will pay to come be fucking awful and shitty, and you fucking serve drinks, and you make it look like fucking The Last Dragon, or what was the fucking movie? No,
I like your solution is Roadhouse.
Yeah,
you're like
100%.
First act Roadhouse.
No, I was thinking Last Dragon when they're in the movie theater. Is it Last Dragon? The Feel the Glow? Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
I think so, but I haven't seen it long enough to get the reference.
Yeah. The Last Dragon. Yeah, that's the one. Oh man.
Yeah,
so they go to a movie
to
theater and it's just literally like show enough was big. It's literally just like chaos in the theater at all times always. But anyways,
that's what it feels like sometimes.
Man, I don't know. I'm cynical about the theaters at this point, but I will say, like, it's become significantly more of a priority for me to have a dedicated theater space in my living space, especially being vagabonds now for going on 7 months and not having, like, we don't have Alexandra and I, for the entire time we've been on the East Coast, we don't have, like, there is not a single screen that is effective in the compound here that we're staying. Like, literally, these people, the amount of time that I have to turn off fucking motion smoothing because the TV's reset, like nobody cares. And also, there's no comfortable position because nobody cares about how they watch stuff. I literally got into it. Speaking of my brother-in-law, I'm really throwing him under the bus here, whatever. I came into the back house yesterday of my sister's house, and my brother-in-law was sitting on the couch on his phone, and the living space is pretty large, and it's not where I would be watching TV. It's like a good space to put on sports, but it's not where I would watch movies. The TV's very far away on the other wall and very, very high and not very big because it has to fit within the center column of the fireplace, right? So it's like very high and away and very small. And he's watching Iron Claw. And at some point, he like gets distracted and like gets up and like walks out and like comes back in and then realizes, like, oh, and then he like pauses it. But then he like goes back to the kitchen and then comes back down. Then he hits play, but he doesn't like rewind to see the stuff he missed. And I'm just inside. And obviously, this is how most people, they don't care. They don't fucking care, Koi. But I am inside the movie nerd in me who was like, this is the best movie of the fucking year. And you're fucking
in agony.
Like the amount of, how much work people put in this. But this is the general public. This is how people operate now. We literally watch 10-second things on our phone and we fucking scroll through, and it's just like this endless barrage of an idea and an idea and an idea and an idea, and whether the ideas connect is fucking irrelevant to any of us. Therefore, people don't mind watching shit at home completely and totally chopped up and in sections because they're no longer watching one piece from beginning to end. They're just watching a bunch of different ideas that may or may not be related. And then when it's all said and done, they can be part of the community and go, yeah, I saw it. Didn't like it. Did like it. Oh, that guy was good. That girl was hot. And it's like,
yeah,
I know that I'm sounding like fucking old man yells at clown cynic, but this is what you asked.
No.
This is what you asked for.
About the
like,
I did.
I think that technology has just ruined the movie going experience. Whether or not it's ruined movies, I don't think so. I'm not that cynical. I think it's just truly changed, like
how we consume them.
And you're 100% right. Theaters are now a niche. They're a niche thing to do.
Yeah,
and we can hope that they come back. And that some things change and then eventually it becomes, listen, if you told me in the year 2001 that 20 years later, fucking vinyl would be sold everywhere and that people would be spinning records, I'd been like, that's fucking stupid. So maybe in 20 years, all of a sudden going to the movies there's a boom, is the big fun thing that everybody goes and does. But I just don't. I don't know.
In the meantime, I think we support how best we can. We keep doing those little things we can to like your bookstore thing. Like I really like that bookstore theater parallel because that's how I'm trying to treat it.
It is. It's kind of that. Like you kind of have to like the way that you, like buy the ticket.
I'll always order that extra ticket. Yeah, that's you getting a book.
Well,
like
there's
also.
Bookmark. Oh wait, there's also Alexandra just told me about this and I didn't even know about it, and she made me feel dumb because she assumed that I knew. Oh shit. There's a website, bookstore, let me see, bookshop.org, which essentially is like an online bookseller, and their prices are not Amazon, but you literally can like select your local bookseller, and this company will just pay them as like almost like they're circumventing distribution. And it's almost like you can have a bookstore get paid for a book that they didn't sell by using this. And I don't know the logistics of it. I'd have to look into it more, but she just brought this to my attention when we were in a bookstore like 2 days ago. Bookshop.org. We need movie theater fucking.org where it's like, hey, before you watch this movie on fucking Plex, would you like to throw $2 to fucking Regal down the corner or whatever
to show support?
I don't know. But again, I just don't know. At the end of the day, like, I also think that readers are different people.
Tend to be a little bit more altruistic.
People who are a fan of books tend to like bookstores, whereas people who are fans of movies don't always give a fuck about movie theaters.
Generally the arts aren't regarded in either category or any category as like the get a job crowd, which then comes home and half watches movies.
Yeah. Fuck.
I don't know. It's the first time I've been kind of in a bittersweet melancholy about the present, about the theater. I've definitely been trying to ever since 2020, I've been trying to live like, okay, this could change next year. How do I appreciate it? And right now I'm in the throes of that with movie theaters with The Fall Guy, because I thought The Fall Guy was going to be a hit. I thought it was going to be like finally a non-superhero IP hit. And I obviously love superhero stuff, obviously.
Right.
But to have a non-superhero movie open the summer, I was really optimistic. And then when it did as poorly as it did, I definitely am looking at my stuff. And I think Deadpool's going to make its billion. I think that's going to be the big movie of the summer. And that doesn't change. That doesn't save movie theaters, but I do think it's another bandage on the wound. I do think the triage will be these big movies when they hit. But yeah, just wanted to talk about it. I want to hear from you guys. I definitely think it's a conversation worth having a dialogue around. I love Jake's bookstore metaphor. I had not thought of that, and I definitely feel like I'm my parents when they were talking about how much they love bookstores, and then they were already seeing this kind of thing happen with bookstores. So it definitely does feel familiar to that, like, enjoy it while you can, know that it's kind of not a novelty, but it's not necessarily what it was.
Can I pitch an additional, like, future?
Oh yeah, please.
And this is, like, end of the world shit, but I think that another thing that we need to do is we need to champion private theater experiences. So if there's a person who has made a custom theater, right? Urge them to, like, make sure it seats 10 and then figure out how to pay them in a way that they will at minimum be buying an abundance of physical media. So at least it's like, hey, I go to this guy's house to watch movies that he has bought.
But at least it's more theater
on Blu-ray. It's still just a streaming service, but at least it's a private theater, it
keeps the energy going.
I don't know, because I want to just build a really nice private theater, and when a movie comes out on whether on VOD or on physical media, like, you and I and friends could all just sit together and have a movie theater experience but in a controlled environment, without strangers, and for a lot cheaper. Because at the end of the day, it really is, like, I think it's unfortunate, but at its core, I think it's a
nobody has money.
It's a capitalism problem. It's a money problem. And then, like, the second part of it is the technology. Like, it's a money problem to start. This is the difference. It's a money problem with an answer. That's the problem. Or a solution, rather. It's a money problem. Nobody has money to go to a theater. And it also has a solution, which is stay fucking home and watch your shit at home.
And that is what's happening.
And the unfortunate reality is the solution should have been, let's figure out how to make theater experiences better and cheaper.
But then a global pandemic happens simultaneously with streaming not working.
And stuff like AMC A-list and those things,
which is how I afford it.
It's good. It's smart. It's great business. But it's still a hard sell versus the alternative, right?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Well, if you guys have opinions, I want to hear them. Please, 818-794-0722. 818-794-0722. What do you think would help the movie theater industry? What are you maybe doing yourself to support it if you're as big a fan as Jake and I? And what do you think of this streaming bundle thing? It's all very, since we started this podcast, a lot of unprecedented times. And I think there might be, like, in the future, a month or two at a time of precedented times, but I'm gonna focus on.
You think so? You think we're gonna return to precedents?
I think that the new precedents will plateau. I think there'll be times of plateau, and I'm really looking forward to precedented times. Whether they're this current time that feels unprecedented, them being normal, I just want I want a nice span of months where we feel like, it's good to catch a breath. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe I'm an optimist, but we'll see. Do call in. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. You can also send voice memos to contact@koicast.com. And I believe we've got at least a caller to check out today. Who we got?
Let's see.
Hey, Coy. Hey, Jake. This is Gilbert up in the Bay Area. And I just want to say I really enjoyed the Declan Shalvey interview. He's someone I've been following for a long time. I've always been a fan of his art. He seems like a great dude. And honestly, that's kind of what I want to hear from you guys. I love to hear interviews with creators or even retailers about stuff. I love the idea of going deeper into comics culture. And I think it would be interesting to a lot of your fans. Just let me know what you think. And on that note, I did also have a question for you about comic shops. What are things you look for that either make or break a comic shop? I'm asking this because since I moved, oh yes, and I did get married on the 5th. Thank you. I already know you're saying congratulations. I appreciate it. And my old shop would alphabetize in a certain way that made it easier for me to find new books, like independent books especially. But the new shop near me just puts it all in one big alphabetical section, and it makes it impossible for me to find new indie books to check out. And that's just something I can't stand. And I also hate it when they do poor customer service. Yeah, I guess that's all what I want to know. Like, what do you look for in a comic shop that makes you either give it a pass or you just won't shop there again? All right. Thank you. You guys have a good week. Stay sweaty. Bye.
I'm going to say congratulations now after the fact because you paused and that was funny, but you're going to wait to hear my congratulations. Congratulations. That's so exciting, man. I think this is a fun little two-parter here. I do think comic stores have things that make or break them.
100%,
but I also think that they don't always realize. So it's kind of a tricky thing because if they have bad customer service, which was your second point, it's hard to approach them and kind of suggest a thing like the entitlements there. And the more things get niche, the more entitlement I feel like happens. And I always feel like comic stores aren't intimidating to me, but whenever I bring someone, I see the fear in their eyes.
You've been because you grew up in them.
I was born in them, molded by them. I didn't see the outside until I was a man. But I understand I can't know what it's like to go for the first time.
You're like
again.
the bane of comic shops.
I just emerged from a Wednesday new comic book day pile.
You simply adopted the nerd. I was born into it.
I was a subscriber when they mailed them to homes.
Yeah.
I think personally things to get make or break for me are I will only go to a comic store once if they don't have back issues. Because there's no reason for me to go there again and make two stops. I understand overhead. I understand how that's not possible for every comic shop. But for me, I am going for the new comics and looking for old ones.
Right.
So if you're just new, you might work for 80% of people, but I'm not going to make two stops.
Right.
So that's a big one for me that's very specific. How you treat women in a comic store is really big for me. A lot of comic store people assume women aren't actually looking, that they're there with their boyfriend.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Are you telling me that nerd culture has sexism?
Some roots in misogyny?
Wait a minute.
I literally if I see any sort of side eye, I'm out. Like, that's not my store. So like even worse than treating a dude like shit. If there's any sort of like judgment on a woman being in a comic store, that's it for me. And then the third one for me, I think, is honestly like how they regard comics themselves. I've been in shops that were well put together, that had back issues, that were really kind, but then they would spend every moment when they weren't talking to a customer shit talking comics, or like, I can't believe this creator did this, or like, oh my god, can you believe they're selling this? I can't believe this sold. If your job is to make people excited and you think everything's shit, I'm not giving you money. So those are my three personally.
Okay. I think that we're almost entirely in lineup here. I think he mentioned about the organization, Gil. And I didn't realize how important this was to me until popping into a shop here out on Long Island that I've mentioned on the show before, and it is quickly becoming my all-time favorite comic book store. There's no shade to House of Secrets, which I love, and no shade to, Paradise. What's the name of that place in
Collector's Paradise?
Paradise.
Peanut Comics is lots.
All those places in LA that I love. This place called Escape Pod Comics in this old historic village on Long Island called Huntington Village. It is the most enjoyably organized store that I've ever been into. So almost the entire store is curated sections of front-facing trades and floppies. Okay. So they do have one big giant new issues floppy wall, right?
Right.
And they also have the section, which is the classic, just like a row of long boxes with long boxes underneath and then some flats up top, some floppies face up top, the expensive ones. Like the classic, they have those little sections, but the majority of the store is like a section that's called like historical fiction. And then like a bunch of comics that have historical, fictional implications. It includes some of like mainstream cape stuff, but it also includes like some stuff. There's an entire section of biographical comics. There's an entire section of like, like inclusion stories or stories for, a specific, subsects of culture. It'll be like a specific, here's African American stories, or here's this. And it doesn't mean that certain books are only in one of them. There are also some
that's
that
cool, man.
meet.
I've never seen a book set up that way.
It's
That's like a library. You found a library. Of course you found a bookstore.
It's kind of insane because it's a small store. It's not big, but it's crammed. There's so much stuff crammed into this small space. And it's
I
just
love that
organized.
multi-category can have one of each because they have multiple copies of a book. Why not do that? That's genius.
100%. They obviously have like, independent section, that stuff. Then the other part of it, and this is another thing that really does make or break a comic book store for me. So that I say that because that speaks to what Gil said about finding new books. That's how I find new books, is by walking by and looking at something and saying, oh, what is that? That's interesting. So if you don't have front facing, especially trades for me, because I don't no longer buy single issues.
Right.
That's huge for me. If you have like a bunch of, here's what a graphic novel looks like, I'll go, well, I would like to pick that up now. Like that helps. But also selling used and old pre-owned books. That is huge to me. I understand, like kind of like you said about back issues, where it's like overhead's a bitch. And I'm not saying that you need to have, a giant, you don't need to be like the Iliad in fucking LA where the whole store, but like even this place has like 2 like IKEA Billy bookcase shelves worth of used books and great selection for, they've got a little bit of every publisher and some indie stuff and some mainstream stuff. And, in fact, I found the next, so I have like in my phone, I have a next book list, which is just like what I'm up to in all of my trade collections. And some of them are things that I've already read elsewhere that I just didn't own that I'm catching up. Some are like old things that I just stopped reading, not because of a lack of interest, but like Fables. At some point I just got up to whatever trade number I am in Fables.
And it kept going.
And it just keeps going. And I haven't, so I have this list on my phone so I don't forget.
Smart.
And they just so happened to have like totally randomly a used copy of the next Fables trade that I needed.
It just needs to have opportunity for a secondary thing. That's my big thing. It's got to have opportunity.
Yep. So yeah, I love the layout. I will say, I think that decor could sometimes make or break a store, because that's something that House of Secrets has going for. House of Secrets is
that store is beautiful.
One of the coolest looking comic book shops. And I know there's like Midtown and those places, which they're obviously really big, but it's because they have a...
But House of Secrets feels like it's yours. Like it feels so homey, but also special.
Yeah, the floor alone is just so fucking cool in that place. So that does matter. But I think at the very top of the list, you fucking hit the nail right on the head, Coy. And that is like, what's the staff like? First off, if you don't fucking at least say hi to me when I walk in the door, go fucking kick rocks. I have like if there's nobody in your fucking store and a human
you got time
being
to address me.
A human being enters your immediate vicinity and you don't at least acknowledge that they are there and that they have stopped by. And by the way, I also don't need you to be up my ass. But that is a huge deal breaker, because I'm also just like, that's a customer service thing. Like I'm just
and I'm paying, like we're paying reciprocity here.
Right.
But Gil, love this question. What was the top of the message?
He wants more interviews with you want
to talk about Declan. And I got on the comic shop tear that I missed the top.
I get it.
Yeah, Declan, what a delight, man. I had such a good time with that interview.
And we didn't talk about it on the air, but like we also just chatted for like an additional 40 minutes or some shit like that.
Yeah, that shoot
recording.
day was twice as long because Declan is an angel, and we ended up talking for like an hour and a half.
Well, also you had a ton of technical issues, but let's not.
Let's not
beat that dead gift horse. But no, yeah, I agree. I mean, it was so fun chatting with him. I also would love to do. So, get some more guests in here and there. It's tough. Scheduling is tough.
Scheduling's hard. Because we got lucky that he could do it when we were shooting. Yeah, I gave him 3 Monday options.
That's the thing is Koi and I have a dedicated day that we do KoiCast, and it's sometimes tougher when you're scheduling because if they're not available on the day that we're doing it, Koi and I can't always be like, well, let's just pop on. Not that we're like opposed to doing that. Koi, I would assume. I mean, I'm speaking for both.
No, I'm not opposed at all. I'm just aware that we're in different time zones and we have a kind of a schedule set aside. But so I'm down. But yeah, it's a lot of variables.
He did also say like and distributors and sellers. That's actually not a bad idea. I wouldn't mind doing an occasional like interview with.
It'd be fun to have like the House of Secrets guys,
right?
Like we were just talking about.
Totally. Like I'm more than happy to learn about some. Maybe that's a fun little series that we should do. Maybe starting this summer. We should do like
the escape pod guys. I don't know that store. That'd be fun for me.
Yeah, the summer of shops. We can call it. And
yeah, maybe I'd be down.
Maybe we'll try to highlight some comic book shops. The problem is let's also not be romantic about the situation here. Like not everybody
entertainment training.
Not everybody who owns a comic book shop is necessarily going to be a great fucking interview. But it is interesting to hear about how you get into it, why you're into it, what struggles people face. So yeah. I definitely feel like we could definitely
that's a fun idea.
Say definitely a couple more.
So I like the uniqueness of it. Sorry, I cut you off last second.
I know, it's fine. I heard myself say the word definitely like 2 times in quick right after one another. And I was just trying to gloss over it. Anyways, we're good at talking.
What was funny was I went with your body language, not with my ears, and I saw you lean back and I was like, oh, he wrapped up his thought. And my brain was like, speak.
It's been 6-7 months, but the timing on Zoom is definitely still a problem here. We're doing the best we can. I hope listeners it doesn't bother them too much. I will say the one thing that you and I can hear myself doing it now. I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to breathe. The one thing that you and I do on Zoom is we also yell at each other because we're doing Zoom talk.
Right, which is a curse in general.
Despite the fact that we both have microphones directly in front of our faces.
I'm sorry, audience. I've been trying.
We yell at each other, but I think we all do that when we're on Zoom. I notice myself doing that. Like, if you ever like Zoom with a family member and for some reason
yelling,
your throat is sore halfway through.
Because you're not talking, you're zooming, and whatever that different type of language is, it isn't pleasant.
It's like we feel the need to. It's like our brain knows that the camera...
You're far away.
Yeah, the camera and the screen are the input devices for our voice. And so we're
like, that's where my voice needs to be.
Even though, Koi, even if you didn't have a podcasting microphone in front of you, you still are using your headset mic, which dangles 2 inches below your face.
Which I also ignore because I'm yelling here.
Yes. Listen.
That said, good patrons, if you want to hear us talk about any of these things, but also movies and stuff, I do want to mention the Patreon has grown some, even while we've been Zooming. So I want to thank folks for joining the Patreon in this new form, because I didn't expect that. So also, I just want to send some gratitude.
Yeah, and let's urge listeners, if you haven't checked it out, please consider throwing it's just a couple bucks. Do you want to know what number we are up to this week? What number?
Where we at? I know it's staggering.
POP episode 190. We are we are approaching 200 POPs.
That's in 5 weeks. Like in 5 recordings, we'll be at 200.
Do you know why it's called what it is, by the way?
Patron only pod?
Yeah.
No, actually.
Because when we started doing it, I don't always consult you for branding things because you just
that's fair.
You just
You're
go
better at it.
You go whatever. And it was the patron exclusive episodes. Okay. Now I never intended on an acronym.
Oh, that's so good. Would you like to join P?
By the way, I never intended on the acronym. But it used to say in the artwork, patron exclusive episode, right? And it would just
Can
say
we
like,
call it patron exclusive episode and patron only obviously pod?
yes. Oh my God.
Can it be?
Or
can we be
outstanding.
7 years old?
The patron only outstanding podcast.
We're 7 years old and we've got pee and poop.
I love that. But yeah, but the thing was, the funny part about it, Coy, was that I told you, and I even said it on air a few times, you just started calling it the patron only pod. And I used to say, like, it's not its own podcast. It's this podcast, but they are Patreon exclusive episodes of this podcast.
Subconsciously, that was like, we're not pee.
But that was the branding in my head. And you just kept saying over on the patron only pod, patron only pod, patron only pod. So,
how good does that sound?
So I just changed it on the graphics to patron only pod, and then also started writing POP in front
Which
of
sounds great
in front of the episodes. It still didn't say P, but it did say patron exclusive episode.
That is so funny. I just I beat it into existence.
Yeah,
I just battered it down. The patron only pod.
You punched that gift horse quite a few times.
I certainly did. The pee and poop pods. I wanted to thank all of the patrons because it's grown. In the last 6 months, which I didn't expect with us going from a distance. So we really appreciate that. That is where you'll hear us talking about the X-Men 97 finale. That is where you'll hear us talking about a patron exclusive for the gift horse. They picked a little movie called Ghost in the Shell. And I will tease, Ghost in the Shell is my favorite thing a patron has assigned. And I do not say that
really?
lightly. So I did not expect.
True. That's not true. Because The Town was also assigned.
Oh, sorry. I meant new. Sorry. A new. Okay. My favorite new.
Okay.
My favorite new watch, thanks to a patron, is going to be this movie. So I'm excited to talk about it.
If that's not enough, let I remind you of something that was previously mentioned. I'm going to get into some Madam Web because Daddy did some webbing, or as I'm calling it, the Amazing Snyder Man.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Were you with her mother in the Amazon when she was looking for spiders? So yeah, guys, we got X-Men this week. We got the Ghost in the Shell this week. We got Jake going my damn web. We got a lot of options. So head on over to Patreon Pod. We got a lot of stuff going over there, and
please,
it's a couple bucks, and you get literally 190 episodes of at minimum 3 for each of us. So 190 times 6 minimum. Sometimes it's 10 or more, but at minimum 6. So at minimum, we're talking 1,200 movies or shows or pieces of art we're discussing.
Art, yeah.
Bananas.
Also,
so head on over there.
I also want to say to people, you do get access to the entire back catalog immediately. So
it's all right there.
When you become a patron, you just have access to everything. So I know some people are like, well, I feel like it's too late to sign up now. I've missed so much. You won't miss anything. You get access to absolutely everything that's available, and then you'll get access moving forward. Additionally, if you're the sort of person who's maybe used Patreon elsewhere for other podcasts, and you think like, yeah, I don't want to sit in the app. I don't want to listen to Patreon. I don't listen to podcasts in the app. You don't have to. You will get your very own RSS feed, a URL that you can copy in Patreon and then paste directly to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your regular podcasts, and then get the feed of the Patreon only pods exclusively just for you in whatever podcast player you want. So you can listen to it however you're listening to this podcast right now.
Very worth checking out. We're very proud of it. So thank you to everyone that's already over there. Thank you to everyone that's interested. Thank you in general. And if you were listening to this pod, thank you. I love this audience. I love this community we've built. The Discord is lively and awesome and completely free. So head on over to the Discord. That is an option at any point.
Also, check out the shop if you haven't in a while. A lot of great stuff in there, including, our Maestro / Dark Side shirt that I absolutely love. There's hoodies, there's phone cases, tons of great stuff. And I want to put this out there because we haven't heard from them yet. The victor of the DC cards.
There's a second mysterious.
No. They got them. They contacted me. So. I shipped those out. We haven't heard. I'm just putting this out there. Please shoot us a message, a voicemail. if you felt like videoing, I'm sure that you've already opened at this point because it's been a while now. But I just kind of want to follow up. We put $3 in there for you to buy
to get that card.
It was Orion, right?
Yeah.
Because also the listeners don't know this, and this is, I'm giving something away that was just a fun little surprise for the victor, but we made a fake Orion card and put it in that spot.
It was beautiful.
So, listen, follow up because we'd love to find out how the DC cards are doing.
We don't know how they were received because it was a hell of a weird thing. And if you want to leave a voice memo and become a co-host of the show and guide the conversation, 818-794-0722. Get us your questions. Send us your comments. You can also send a voice memo to contact@koicast.com. That is going to do it for this week. Please let us know about your theater experience. Let us know about what you think of the streaming bundles. All this stuff. We want you guys part of the conversation. And again, thank you to the patrons for keeping this going. That is going to do it for this week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you, as always, to Comic Books for existing. We'll see you in a couple.
Sorry if I was mean to movie theaters.
If you're enjoying this podcast or any podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon shop. You can tout your podcast pride while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. Make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. So shop now at dragonwagonshop.com. Get your dragon swag on.
It's Dragon Wagon.